อต้อนรับเข้าสู่สุทธิชัย Podcast ณ บัดนี้สนับสนุนโดย BitCup นึกถึง Bitcoin คิดถึง BitCup บริษัทกาแฟดำจำกัดโครงการ Forestias ที่น่าสนใจเป็นอย่างยิ่งเพราะว่าเป็นโครงการใหญ่โครงการยักษ์ระดับโลกที่มาอยู่ตรงกลางเมืองกรุงเทพตรงบางนาตราดที่ผมได้สัมภาษณ์ผู้บริหารบางท่านไปแล้วนะครับแต่ว่าที่น่าสนใจคือมีการร่วมมือกันกับที่ปรึกษาระดับโลกในหลายๆด้านเลยครับด้านหนึ่งก็คือด้าน entertainment คือด้านของการที่จะให้ชีวิตความเป็นอยู่ของคนที่อยู่ในโครงการนี้เนี่ยมีความรู้สึกร่วมในหลายๆรุ่นคนรุ่นต่างๆสามารถอยู่ร่วมกันได้ในชีวิตที่เกี่ยวข้องกับความบันเทิงสบายๆพักผ่อนและสามารถที่จะอยู่กันตั้งแต่รุ่นปู่ย่าตายายรุ่นพ่อแม่และลูกอยู่ด้วยกันได้อย่างไรที่ปรึกษาระดับโลกนี้ชื่อ iTech Entertainment ที่สหรัฐอเมริกาครับแล้วผมก็เคยเจอกับ CEO ผู้ก่อตั้งคุณบิล โคเอนซึ่งเป็นผู้เชี่ยวชาญด้านนี้โดยเฉพาะดังนั้น Forestias ของประเทศไทยใช้หุ้นส่วนพาร์ทเนอร์ผู้ที่ปรึกษาในระดับโลกจริงๆเลยนะครับผมจะชวนคุณบิล โคเอนคุยว่าบทบาท iTech Entertainment ซึ่งมีงานในระดับโลกมามากมายหลายด้านเนี่ยที่จะมาบอกกับเราว่าแล้ว Forestias ในเมืองไทยนั้นจะมีหน้าตาออกแบบอย่างไรจึงจะสมกับความเป็น world class ความเป็นระดับโลกจริงๆ Hi Bill Cohen Good morning in Bangkok is evening but it must be morning in Florida
It's morning in Florida, waiting for a beautiful sunshiny day, but good morning.
Great.
Good evening to you.
Great. And you are not leaving the country because of COVID-19, right?
Well, I haven't left the country recently, but I'll be coming into Thailand soon, probably in the next month.
Yeah. Because we are relaxing our immigration health
the quarantine.
Restriction, the quarantine. So you may be able to come if you have a vaccine passport.
Yes, I do. So we'll be ready to come in the next few weeks.
Great. Yes. No, I'm trying to find out how iTech Entertainment that you run got involved from the beginning with the Forestias project here in Thailand.
Yeah, well, it's a fairly simple, straightforward approach. We have been working with the client, the MQDC folks, for several years on different projects, and they approached us originally because of our background being major theme parks and attractions, the entertainment side of development.
Yes.
And they had approached us about some other projects, but then along comes the Forestias project, and it seemed to fit our approach to developing projects very well. So they engaged us from the early stages of the project to help them develop the approach and a kind of a creative approach that might be a little bit different than normal in Thailand.
Well, I know that iTech Entertainment is a world-class consultant firm on entertainment. What have been some of your world-class projects in the world?
So we've been very fortunate. We've worked for some 30 years. We grew up in the theme park business. My partners and I worked with Disney originally in Imagineering. And then we developed iTech Entertainment as a commercial version so that we could work with other people besides Disney throughout the world. So we've been involved in projects in variety of places in the world, and certainly for the big companies like Universal Studios and Walt Disney, and worked in China, worked in the Middle East, worked in Europe. So we've been very fortunate. Some of the major projects that people would know are the projects that we do for the big entertainment companies like, let's say, the Mummy attraction for Universal Studios, right? Or let's, the Jurassic Park. Those kind of projects are the ones we've been involved with for many years.
Yeah.
And up until this point where we We have a team completing the Beijing Universal Studios project right now, which will open in the next month or so.
Oh, really? In Beijing?
Yeah. In Beijing.
Okay. For the Forestias, what is being planned? Is it going to be another Disneyland? Are we going to see Disneyland in the Forestias, right in the middle of Bangkok? Of course, I know that the main concept is multi-generational concept for Forestias. What do you see for the Forestias in Thailand?
Well, this is an interesting question in that this is nothing much like a theme park. This wasn't the intent. Our participation wasn't to create a Disney World or Universal Studios. Quite differently. This is a very kind of intensive mixed use development, as you say. But the goal was to develop it around a story, a kind of a backstory, and a bit of a fantasy that the client wanted to have some, connection to all the different components of this project. And that's very normal in the attractions business, is to create that story or that idea that there is a connecting thread throughout all the different components. So Forestias is really built on a storyline, and the client allowed us to really be very imaginative in how we created that and executed that.
Well, you're going to have to make sure that your concept will satisfy several generations living together in an environment which is more or less like a forest, but at the same time being right in the middle of a big mega city like Bangkok.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the challenge is always to be effective to the broader audience, meaning the young and the old, the commercial participant, those coming to shop maybe, or those coming to a health center or whatever their activity is. But the more important thing is to complete the story so that people believe that they have come to a forest that has existed forever and existed in a very interesting place like Bangkok, Thailand. So the kind of creative conceit that we are working with there is to create a forest environment and then allow the activities and allow the experience, the user experience, to be complete throughout the system, meaning young to old, and for people of all, let's say an international audience. So Forestias has a very bold strategy, not only on the creative side, but on the business side. And the mixing of those two is where the success will come.
Well, you're going to rely a lot on your past experiences and a mixture of all those experiences and to create a unique model for Forestias, right?
Yes, I think that's the goal. The goal is to use the experience and our kind of entertainment techniques to be able to create that space, to create that user experience. And with that comes all of the tools that we've used in theme parks for years, which is the environments, the character of the architecture, the landscape, everything that kind of goes along to making a comprehensive user experience is what's been considered at Forestias.
East and West, cultural differences. Would that
Well, the cultural challenges to us are not so unique in that what is typical around the world in a variety of different cultures is those sensitivities to environment and sensitivities to style and character and lifestyle. What is unique is that this is a very large cityscape in Bangkok and a somewhat unique development process and technique to Thailand. But a lot of these techniques that we're using we've been working with in other places in the world for years. So we certainly want to respect the specific culture of the Thai people and their lifestyles, but we also want to bring some successful ideas that come from the West, of course.
Do you have any examples, the concepts being developed or concepts that have been agreed upon for Forestias now?
Well, the Forestias project is as you know, underway. Some of it actually has been built and will soon be hosting some visitors. But from the forest out, from what we call the deep forest out, we intended to create an environment that was fully man-made, but once inside, the user is going to believe that experience is that forest has existed forever. And the goal there is much like what we've done in themed attractions around the world. Is we've worked very hard for when the guest arrives to the project for them to believe it has existed for some time. We don't want them to walk into a fresh smell of paint or a newly landscaped forest. So this should look very much like, instead of building the forest around the architecture, that we applied the architecture to a wonderful natural system.
Your team must comprise people experts from all around the world too, right?
Yeah, we're blessed that we have creative talent, technical talent that comes from a lot of different places. So we have people that are in our office from Europe. We have people here from Asia. We actually have the lead designer for us was born in Thailand and emigrated to the United States. So he's a Thai-speaking creative talent that has been really helpful with this process because he understands certainly more about the culture than we would coming from the United States.
Yeah, as you know, Forestias is designed to offer conveniences, lifestyles for families closer together, living closer together across multiple generations through carefully planned residential components designed specifically for the needs of particular age groups, whether they are first jobbers, newlyweds, young families, or older parents, so that they can live close to their children and grandchildren or their parents, while still allowing each to maintain their independence and privacy. This is a very unique concept and very challenging too. How would high-tech entertainment fit into this multi-generational landscape?
So that's a very important question, and one that was the challenge from the beginning. The goals, the kind of development goals, but also the creative goals that we've kind of inherited was the idea that not only was that multi-generational to become a standard. In other words, it was to draw the users back to the way things were when the family unit was a bit closer together. So this offered the opportunity for people to not only have their initial home there, but be there throughout their life cycle. So imagine the typical kind of life cycle of a forest, where the seed drops to the ground and it becomes a tree over time, and that tree then grows its entire life, and the forest builds around the treescape. And eventually that tree passes and the trees coming up underneath it fill in, and the forest stays sustained for many years. Well, that's the idea of the Forestias, where the community, the human community would be much like that cycle of life of a natural system of a forest. And so that was the challenge, to not only tie that story into real estate development, but allow for the lifestyle to grow and mature over time, just like the forest would.
So the main thing will be user experience. You have a huge forest in the middle of the project, but at the same time, residents there would expect modern entertainment at the same time. Now, these two elements will prove very challenging because they expect world-class, the natural sense, smell, feeling of being in a forest, in a jungle. Then once they walk out of that jungle, they expect to run into a nice coffee shop that provide all the latest offerings, and then walk into a movie theater or a gymnasium where they can exercise. Is that The idea that I'm trying to imagine, I'm not trying to imagine if I were to be one of the residents there, what I would expect myself.
Well, I think you would expect and you will see what you will experience is just what you were speaking of, which is back to what I said earlier, which is the idea is that we did not create the landscape or the forest around the architecture, that we came in and we applied the architecture to an existing natural system.
Yes.
So anybody, the user, as we say, can experience that from the outside in, meaning as they come from the major highway into the interior, the forest will become progressively more rich.
Yeah.
And then as they move away from the deep forest back out to the natural city of Bangkok, you would progress from that deep forest back out to a more civilized environment.
Yeah.
But it allows this one simple system to exist in one site.
Right.
And it will be somewhat unique anywhere in the world, I think.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. Will it feel like a botanical garden too?
Well, not necessarily botanical garden, but elements of a botanical garden. So imagine that it's really our goal that we have a believable natural system. A botanical garden is a much more manicured and curated system. But we have pieces of a botanical garden. So we might have a butterfly garden, or we might have plant life that you would only see in a curated environment. But it will be so well orchestrated that the guest will really not understand when they're going from one space to the next. It isn't going to be a harsh open the door and you're in the botanic garden or leave the door and you're in the forest. It should be a very seamless experience.
Yes, seamless experience. That's the key word. So they expect to live happily, healthily, and then sustainably too, right? Happy, healthy, and sustainable.
Yeah, interesting. Back to the connection to the attractions or the entertainment business. You know, in the entertainment business, we bring and we entertain people, different crowd of people every day.
Yeah.
Right? They come and they go.
Yes.
In this system, the people are in some cases the same.
Yeah.
And they will be the same for years. So it will be the goal of the developer and the management team to maintain a certain quality and maintain this over time. So therefore the sustainability is key to the function of the project. But remember one thing, the sustainability is also entirely dependent on the culture of the community.
Sure.
And that's where we hope to actually create something unique in the sense that there will be ownership by the community and their goal would have a safe and secure, healthy community as well. So there is some kind of responsibility that goes with the residents and the people that are visiting the space. And I think because of the quality of the project that they will embrace that responsibility.
สนับสนุนโดย BitCup นึกถึง Bitcoin คิดถึง BitCup. In any other country that you have experienced this kind of project, that's this size, this ambitious objective?
So, that's another interesting question. There are new projects, major projects that are being developed around the world, some of which we are involved with, but they have a bit different goal, right? So this is on scale. The size of this project is very large in a sense for Bangkok, but there are bigger projects around the world. They just aren't developed with the sensitivity that MQDC has worked on. What I mean by sensitivity is attention to detail. New cityscapes, new major urban developments usually are built on a real estate model, a very commercial real estate model. This is different in the sense that we have fought along with the team and a very, very impressive team of talents and expertise. We've thought about everything down to the fidelity of the details. When we talk about the butterflies, we want to have the sound of birds. We've really articulated a system that is more unique than it is similar to anything else in the world.
We talk about butterflies and birds. They must be natural. They must come on their own. So you have to build a landscape that would attract them naturally, right?
Of course, and building that landscape, the commercial side of this project requires that we have lots of people coming and lots of people living in this environment. But there's no reason that if we don't create this correctly, that those birds, butterflies, and other animals in the natural systems will begin to evolve over time. Mother Nature has a very unique way of occupying a space if that space is inviting for the natural system. So we're convinced the landscapes, the waterscapes, and the attention to the detail of the architecture will be a system that encourages those natural participants and residents.
What kind of new technology would you apply for this project?
There's some great things that are being done in the very basic kind of infrastructure development of the project. So the goal, of course, would be to hide systems that you would normally see, maybe power lines or major roads or other infrastructure. And in this case, the system around Forestias is built to be sustainable. So there's a lot of techniques that are used individually, water treatment facilities and various things that are being combined in this project, along with that layer of, let's say, entertainment that we would do, lighting and sound and those kind of aesthetics that we add to a system that makes the combination of all those things very unique. As individual systems, they're not unique. In combination, very unique.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with the concept of managing even the irrigation system, managing water, managing pollution, air pollution. It seems to be like a complete city on its own. At the same time, they want to make it a very natural sort of addition to the city. The location also is very interesting. It is close to the Suvarnabhumi International Airport. It is located on Bang Natrat Highway, which has several big shopping malls, some of the biggest in Bangkok. So you are going to find a landscape that is quite modern. At the same time, you don't want to be too modern because you want to live in a natural environment as well. This, to me, is very ambitious and also very impressive.
Yeah, I think ambitious is the correct word because the challenge still here is that it needs to accommodate certain business and commercial needs, but at the same time, we have to address all of those issues you were speaking of. We talk about pollution in a lot of different ways. It isn't necessarily just air pollution, but it may be light pollution or sound pollution. And in this case, the project is trying to manage those things through techniques that allow the visitor to believe that once they're in the system, that part of an urban city disappears. And the goal would be to make sure that the user, not only visually, but in every other sense, is within our system and ignores the fact that they just came from a very busy, maybe polluted cityscape. And all those systems combining, working together, I think result in a very unique experience that you can create, that will be created here at Forestias, very much close to a city or an airport or a major highway.
Entertainment is your main theme. And you're going to build a theme for Forestias as well. How would you define the theme for Forestias?
Well, that's good. The Forestias describes the theme. The name really elaborates the theme. So if you can imagine the idea that you can visit a place or be involved in a place that simulates or is a forest, then that really is the theme. The thread that ties everything together is nature. Nature goes through 100% of everything we do every day in life. There is a natural component to that, whether it's your health and your environment, but it also includes the architecture you live in. It includes the sounds you hear, the light levels that you see, the difference between a daytime experience and a nighttime experience. All of those things in our world, in the entertainment world, are very much like a movie or a theater production where we control all those issues. Imagine a theater as a black box.
Yeah.
We control everything, lighting, sound, and everything.
Right.
In a theme park, it's a little bit more elaborate because it's a environment that's an exterior space, but the techniques are the same. We want to orchestrate, bring all those pieces and parts together and orchestrate the most significant experience that we can create, the most believable experience we can create. And we simply layer that into what people's normal day activities are in a very unique kind of aggressive way.
Yeah. Bill, I think the best way to imagine the total project would be for you and your family to live in Forestias, to imagine living in Forestias, and to draw up what you actually need to make sure this is the perfect kind of living. Would you want to live in the Forestias that you can see now, that you can conceptualize now?
Oh, so here's the challenge. Once the family lives in the Forestias, they're going to wish that they were living and working there because they're not going to want to leave Forestias.
Yes.
And so the idea is that if you can imagine this, you've come there to live, but you leave in certain times of the day to go to work or to go to school or whatever, but you can't wait to get back because the best place for you to be is in that environment. We believe that Forestias will set a standard for that, that when people arrive, that they will be thrilled to be there and they will be disappointed to leave.
Yeah. No. Would you like to live in the Forestias yourself?
Well, I'm afraid if I lived in the Forestias, I wouldn't leave.
You wouldn't leave.
But
you wouldn't want to work anymore, right?
From in the West, certainly in the United States, we strive to achieve that kind of wonderful lifestyle, and we're so busy. We're all so busy doing what we do. We sometimes forget that pure lifestyle still exists.
I know.
And Forestias might be a return to that.
Yes, so you can probably strike a work-life balance perfection.
Yeah, probably do that more easily in Forestias than you can living in a high-rise in downtown Bangkok.
Yes, very true. Very true. Now, with the new lifestyle as well, with COVID-19, a lot of people around the world, including Thai people, are used to, or getting more used to working from home, working remotely. Now, when you plan Forestias, would you include that element, that future lifestyle, even post-COVID, may be different, new normal? So how would new normal fit into Forestias in your planning?
Well, the Forestias project, at least the concept of this project, came well before COVID.
Yeah.
But I would say maybe some imagination in this, but the Forestias is a great example of what lifestyle will be post-COVID. And in that sense, that you can live and work in Forestias and you can exist there quite comfortably. And I think there's going to be many places around the world that strive for this kind of balance, work-play, work-live balance. And the difficulty with that is that it's very seldom not done in one place. It's done, you have to live in a city that offers you services and support. Forestias will provide a great deal more of that lifestyle support and structure than you would find most any other place. Not by intention. In other words, we did not anticipate COVID. But COVID and those kind of events in our lives do shape the way the new normal is going to be. Forestias addresses that better than anything we've seen that we're working on throughout the world.
Perhaps the Forestias owners were thinking far ahead. Of course, they didn't know that COVID was coming, but they were thinking that in the near future, Bangkok will be different. lifestyle of people in Thailand will make use of more technology. And they will have more time for leisure, more time to be with the family. And if you create an environment that will fit that kind of lifestyle, you are going to get very good attention. Would I be out of my imagination if I thought thinking?
So I think you're correct, and this is there's a couple of things that are very important to every person in every family. One is resources, either how much money you have, but the second one, and probably the more important one, is time.
Time.
We never have enough time.
Right.
So how do you manage a lifestyle where your leisure time, where your time with family, your extended family, where your time at business begins to meld, begins to mesh, and there's no real defining time. So the idea is that you're spending the time required to achieve your career,
Yep.
but at the same time, you're attending to your lifestyle and your family without such structure that you would see normally. Forestias allows for that to happen. And it allows that to happen because the residential type models there exist from your very early first home all the way through maybe your last or your estate home into your senior living experience.
Sure.
What a great opportunity it is to begin to meld and mesh those lifestyles all in one place. The beginning of your careers to the end, the family from a very young family to the older adults that are there. How many places can that happen the way that it will happen in Forestias? Not many. So it's a very unique, not only place, but it's a unique system and a unique environment to live the lifestyle that you can only imagine in most places.
Yeah. I could imagine myself as, say, a 35-year-old business executive with my parents still with me, my children going to school, and I have more time in the morning. I don't have to rush to office. I can work from home in the morning. And in the morning, I have more time with my parents. I have breakfast. I have enough time, breakfast with my parents, with my spouses, my children. And then the children can go to school after breakfast. The parents can relax after breakfast. And I can work until about 10, 11 in the morning, maybe a meeting somewhere, lunch meeting outside, but then I will rush back at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I still can have a chat with my parents, grandparents, and my children. Is this too much to ask for, Bill?
Well, in this case, it's not enough because if you can imagine it, then you can not only imagine that lifestyle, but you can imagine riding a bicycle through a forest at the same time.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So that's the idea, this imagination idea, the idea that if you can imagine it, if you can imagine kind of the perfect scenario for your lifestyle, much of that is accomplished in Forestias.
Yeah, and this is not just a dream anymore, right? You're going to make it a reality. Being able to bicycle on your bicycle into the jungle and back, and then have dinner with your parents and grandchildren at the same time, watch a movie together, and have your private time after 9 o'clock to read books. Perfect life.
It is, and my children can be taking piano lessons while I have a cup of coffee, and my wife is doing yoga. So it is, and it's not too much to say that that's the goal of the project. It truly is, and I think in large part they will achieve this very soon. It'll be a place where people can actually see this working.
This is great. This is great. At this particular point, how much work has iTech Entertainment done? If it's 100% completion, where are you now?
So, it's important to remember that the idea of this great vision and the story that we helped create is not finished yet. So we literally at this moment are still working with the owner developer on some of the details of stores and some of the public spaces that are going to be created there. So while you see projects being built, you see buildings coming up and being finished, we're still working on some of those things that are going to come in the months and years as they come. And we're developing some of the detail for how that story will be executed throughout the system. So we're still working.
Yeah, even once the project is launched and people move in, you are still there to consult and to assess and then to improve on it, right?
Yeah, it's a good point. And again, from our background, when we do a major attraction, we never really leave that project. We provide kind of quality controls and design standards that allow the project to live on, because these projects tend to become a little bit weathered and worn over time, and we can't afford that to happen. So we assume that we will be there in updating and expanding and enhancing the project for many years to come. That's what we do normally.
This is great. Yes. I hope to see you soon, Bill, in Bangkok.
Well, I look forward to it, and I look forward to standing with you in the deep forest.
Yes, I'll be there with you, right? And then we will have our experience together, and then we can really actually assess that statement, and the real imagination can start from there, right?
Yes, and imagine standing there with a butterfly on your finger.
Oh, beautiful. And the songs of birds. And then the water, the waterfall, right?
Water and birds, yeah. It should be very, very nice. And actually, it's coming together right now. We see some great pictures.
Yeah, great. So see you soon, Bill. And then thank you very much today for the conversation.
My pleasure. Good to speak with you.
Thank you. Yes. คุณบิล โคเอนครับ CEO และผู้ก่อตั้ง iTech Entertainment ซึ่งเป็นหนึ่งในที่ปรึกษาระดับโลกของโครงการ Forestias ครับสนับสนุนโดย BitCup นึกถึง Bitcoin คิดถึง BitCup และบริษัทกาแฟดำจำกัดสามารถติดตามสุทธิชัย Podcast ได้ทุกช่องทางทั้งระบบ iOS และ Android สุทธิชัย Podcast anywhere anytime any device